Hi everybody, it's Liz from Weststar Tarot, and today I'm taking a little bit of a stroll down memory lane as I discuss first 5 tarot decks and most recent 5 tarot decks. And this was a tag started by, as clearly as I could track it, Katie at Moonflower Moments, I think is the name of the channel. Anyway, I've been seeing things, videos posted with that hashtag for a few weeks now, and I thought it sounded like a fun tag to do. And so I have pulled out those 10 decks. I found figuring out my first 5 a little bit easier than my most recent 5. The first 5 I'm pretty clear about, and for people who have followed me and watched my videos for a while, you will probably know a lot of these decks. So my first tarot deck was this one, the Mother Piece, and I got this deck in the mid-1980s when I was going to graduate school in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And there was a store down the street from where I was going to school called Arsenic and Old Lace. And they had tarot decks, books, cauldrons, herbs, candles, resources to make, to do spell work. They had all kinds of stuff that you would want in your witch supply closet. And, I had seen tarot decks. This was, of course, before the internet. And I was not attracted to them. They were too white, too male, too patriarchal. I just didn't find them appealing at all. And then one day I came across this deck. It was round. It was feminist. It was, well, more inclusive than the standard Rider-Waite-Smith and standard Marseille style decks. And I was enchanted. I took it home, and it was my only deck for quite some time. And my dear friend Pauline and I used to read for each other. I knew nothing about tarot at the time. And in fact, it wasn't until I picked up an actual Rider-Waite-Smith deck decades later that I realized this was Rider-Waite-Smith based or influenced. I had no idea at the time. So, for example, right? I can see how that was inspired by Pamela Coleman Smith's Four of Swords. And same for the Five of Wands here. And so anyway, oh, and how about the Eight of Wands? So anyway, this was a deck, my first deck. And as I said, that was the only deck I had for many years. And then I think I also got this deck at Arsenic and Old Lace. And it is also a round. Oh, did I say Vicki Noble and Karen Vogel were the creators of the Mother Piece? This is Daughters of the Moon. This is the first edition of it. It was, as you can see, black and white. And this one is not really Rider-Waite-Smith based. A little bit, like, there you go, hanged one. This is Justice. So they renamed a lot of the cards. Fiona Morgan was the leader of the group of artists who created this. It was her idea, I believe. And I don't know if you can see, but this is like the back is very shiny, but the front is very matte. And their intention for this deck, there were 2 lovers cards. You could choose between which one you wanted. Their intention in making it this way was so that you could color in your own deck. And for years I had this deck, and you can maybe see how it's kind of yellowing a little bit, because I got this one, I think it was still in the, maybe in the late 80s, or I'm not sure, I think so. And, you know, again, it's round, it's feminist, it's inclusive, it's, you know, kind of a riff on the Mother piece. These 2 decks came out right around the same time as each other. Anyway, I never colored it in. I intended to, but every time I would sit down to color it in, I was so afraid I would wreck it that I just never colored it in and just continued to use it as is, or as was. And I'm really glad that I never did color it in, because they eventually came out with a full color version of this deck, which I also have. And so I'm glad that I have this original black and white still in its black and white, you know, its original state. I've put it in this box that the full color deck came in. And this remains one of my favorite decks to this day, some 35 years later. So that was my second deck. And then my third deck was this one, the Herbal Tarot by Michael Tierra. And I think Candace, well, I got to look, I can't remember. The artist's name is Candace Canton. And Michael Tierra is a TCM herbalist practitioner. And he spoke at the an herbal conference in Auburn, Massachusetts, that was run by Rosemary Gladstar, and eventually it spun off into a herbal conference that's still around to this day called the International Herb Symposium. And so I was going through, Michael had a table, you know, in the vendor hall, and I was looking around at the vendors, and on his table he had this. And I thought, holy shit, tarot and herbs. I didn't mention, but I'm also an herbalist as well as a tarot reader. And I was just like, oh my gosh, because this was the late 80s. I want to say 88, 89. I know it was before 1990 because my daughter was born in 1990, and it was when I was going to that conference, I was still did not have any children. So anyway, each card has, you know, the tarot, but it also has an herb. And I also got a guidebook. This just came with the little white book, but Michael also was selling the guidebook, which he wrote. And it explains why they chose the herb that they chose to go on each card. And in the guidebook, it has a little bit of information about the card and about the herb in its healing medicinal aspect, but also its magical aspect. So the guidebook is kind of cool because you can see a range of uses, medicinal as well as magical for the herbs. So that was my third tarot deck, and one that I still enjoy to this day. And then my fourth tarot deck was, sorry, this one was not a tarot, it was an oracle. Oh shoot, I didn't bring the guidebook, but it's called The Goddess Oracle. And the artwork, oh shoot, I'm gonna have to put it in the description. Rana Janto. And the guidebook was written by Sophia, don't remember. I'll have to put it in the description box. Anyway, this was another one of those decks that when I came across it, I was like, wow, a deck that's all goddesses. How cool is that? This was probably now early 90s. So over 30 years ago. And things were different then. There was no internet. There wasn't like thousands of tarot decks and oracle decks. It wasn't like, you know, new oracle and tarot decks were coming out on the daily. And so to discover this, for me, was so exciting. I love the Rana's artwork. And the guidebook is great too. It starts out with each goddess a poem that Sophia wrote. Then there's a little bit of information about the legend or the mythology behind the goddess, what culture she's from. And then there's a ritual for each one of the goddesses. So this is a deck that that I've really enjoyed and I have had since the early 90s. If you look at the edges of these decks, you can see they're kind of grubby because they've been shuffled a lot and used a lot and loved a lot. So that was my fourth one. And then my fifth one is this one, Medicine Woman Tarot by something Bridges, I think that her name is. Oh no, oh yeah, Carol Bridges. And this is a U.S. Games. It was published in 1989, but I actually can't 100% remember if I got this one before the Goddess Oracle or the other way around, but close. So this deck I don't use so much anymore for a number of reasons. But I know at the time, I really enjoyed it, and it was so different from anything that I had or I had seen. And again, my entire collection up at this point, this was the fourth tarot deck that I had, and I had one oracle. So, you know, over the course of like 10 or 12 years, my collection was very small, 5 decks in total. Oh, but that would change soon enough, wouldn't it? So anyway, this was a deck that was my fifth deck. And as I said, I don't really use this one anymore, but I you know, I still have it. I also have a guidebook for it in addition to the little white book. So those were my first 5. Look at the, it's funny. Yeah, it's been around the block. So those are my first 5 decks. And so I think about, before I move on to my most recent 5 decks, I think about, what do those decks say about my practice? And I think they say a lot about what my practice was back then. And honestly, to this day, I prefer a more feminist deck. I prefer an inclusive deck. I prefer decks that are a little bit off the beaten path, although I have many standard decks, so I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm some, esoteric, whatever. But I do tend to still prefer, like I said, decks that are feminist in nature, decks that are inclusive in nature. So anyway, those are my first 5. Now my most recent 5. So I got these are 2 Oracle and 3 Tarot. I got these 2 Oracle right around the same time. This is the Lost Oracle by Fiona Horn. And I have to say, the jury is out on this one. I'm not sure if I'm going to hold on to this one or not. It's edged, and I thought, oh, that's great, except for it leaves all these black marks on the cards. But anyway, so yeah, it's that lovely cardstock, really easy to shuffle. I like the color palette, especially for this time of year. I'm filming this in the end of November, almost into December, and I really like this color palette. I think, I tried to, oh, here we go. I separated some of these cards out. Let me show you. So we have a found card and a lost card. And then we have a green man and a celestial queen, which I think for me is the goddess. And we have a crone. We have elixir, enchanted unity, enchantment, and disenchant. So I kind of like that whole series. And then we have ancestral alchemy, midnight brew. I feel like these 2 go together. And then we have these cards, which I think I'm going to use a lot. So we have Pierce the Veil. So we can see this is swords or air. So we have these elements. We have the alchemical symbol. And then we have furnace, which is wands or fire. And then we have chalice of clarity or water. And beacon of fortitude or earth or pentacles. So, I think I guess I'll find ways to use this deck. I haven't really used it much, and I've had it September, maybe I got it. I think, yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, verdict's out, but as I counted back, that was the 5th most recent. And right when I got this deck, very close thereafter, I got this one, Dark Goddess. And I have to say, There's probably about 6 or 7 cards that aren't in this deck right now because I have them out on various altars. So I'm definitely finding this to be a useful deck. Now, some people might find it a little bit creepy because none of our dark goddesses really have eyes. This is Dear Woman, Retribution. Lilith, Rebellion. Caradwyn, Transformation with her cauldron. Oya, Fortitude. Pele, Passion. Sedna, Depth. Excuse me. And the Kaliak, Rest. So, I don't know, I really like this. I think I'm mainly going to just use it for altar cards. I mean, I might and have actually pulled a card from time to time, but I've mainly been using this, for altar cards. Again, there's age range, culture, all from all different Kali. There's from all different kinds of, all different cultures. There are goddesses that I'm not heard of and not familiar with. So I kind of am excited about that because I feel like when I pull out one of these cards, I can look into the guidebook, which is right here, and learn about the goddess. If I can read the fine print, it's really, really small font. And if it's dark out or cloudy, it's a little bit hard for me to read the font, but you know. So then I got this tarot. I backed it or pre-ordered. No, was it Indiegogo? I can't remember now. But it's called the JK Tarot, Jupiter King. And it's a Rider-Waite-Smith remake. It was made in, let me read you, about the deck. The original tarot deck was named J.K. Waite and was made in Japan. It was released in 1975 as a deluxe edition, a set consisting of an introductory book and tarot deck. The cards were illustrated by Seigan Nakajima in Tokyo, and planning and writing of the guidebook were by Mokuseu, which is a gentleman right here. And it says here he was born in Kobe, and he is a Japanese fortune teller, tarot reader, and astrologer. He is a leading figure in the popularization of tarot reading in Japan and has published and translated many tarot books and textbooks, including a Japanese edition of a tarot book by the famous British fortune teller Sasha Fenton. He currently operates a fortune-telling shop in Kobe where he continues to read fortunes using tarot and Western astrology. So this deck, I think it was Tarot Collectibles that what they did was they just issued 2 versions of this, the one that I got and like a cleaned up version. This one they did clean up a little bit, but not to the extent that the cleaned up version is. And I love the color palette of this Rider-Waite-Smith. I love it. And you know, after I ordered it, I thought, oh, why did you order that? Another Rider-Waite-Smith, seriously? But when I got it and I went through the cards, look at this pink horse. I'm really happy I have it. I just love this deck. And I was using it exclusively for the first few weeks after I got it. In September, I believe it arrived. And wow, I got incredible, powerful readings from it. So I'm really happy about this deck. I like it quite a bit. You can see that it is straightforward Pamela Coleman Smith artwork, but with punched up colors. And I really, really love it. And I'm really enjoying it. And I have zero buyer's remorse. I'm really glad that I got it. So anyway, that is the JK or Jupiter King Tarot, reissued by Tarot Collectibles. Really fun, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. And then I got this deck. So this is the Gentle Tarot, and I backed the Gentle Tarot, the original edition, when it first came out, however many years ago that was, I'm not sure. Love the deck, love it, love it, love it. Mari in the Sky is the creator of it. And it is a lovely, lovely deck. I love that Three of Swords. And I love it. I adore it. It's fabulous. But the original edition is quite a bit bigger than this. It's a little bit bigger than standard tarot size. And it is really thick and stiff. And I have really small hands, and I had a really hard time shuffling it. And so I kind of put it aside and stopped using it because of that. And then Mari had a new, she's finally done her Kickstarter for her new Oracle deck, which I did back. And that kind of brought me down or over to her shop. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to get the pocket-sized linen. I don't know, should I, shouldn't I? Well, I've been debating on that for quite some time. Anyway, I finally did. Man, I am so glad I did. I can shuffle this deck, riffle shuffle it. And it's so enjoyable to be able to shuffle the deck and then bridge it back. It just brings me so much joy. And I am using this deck all the time now because I can shuffle it. And it just makes all the difference. So that is my second to the most recent. And then a week or so ago, a friend of mine who I grew up with had a Friendsgiving gathering at her house. And one of the other folks I grew up with brought this, the one JJ Swiss tarot card. And she said she has had this deck. It was printed in 1974, I believe. She said she has had it for ages and ages and ages. And she said she used it a bit, but she doesn't really use it now. And so she thought I might like to have it, which I thought was so kind and so thoughtful. And, you know, as someone who is not into tarot, I said to her, I'm not sure you realize how cool this is to have something made out of pieces of paper that was published in 1974. This is 1924. Oh, no, 2024. So, you know, it's old for something made out of paper, and it's really in mint condition. So I'm not sure how much I will use this deck. But it's one of those decks that's a classic, a standard, and, you know, I'm really happy to have it. And the woman who gave it to me, I went to grammar school with, to junior high with, and to high school with. So I knew her family, including her grandparents. So, you know, it's just really lovely to have this deck, and it makes me really happy. And I just thought, oh, it's nice when people see you and know who you are and, you know, give you a gift to affirm that. So, what do these most recent decks say about my tarot practice? Well, I'm still into more feminist decks. The Dark Goddess deck shows that. I prefer more inclusive decks. And since the original 5 decks, I have become a Rider-Waite-Smith person, as the J.K. Tarot and the J.J. Swiss, no, the J.J. Swiss more Marseille, as the J.K. Tarot supports that I am now a Rider-Waite-Smith person. I prefer more diverse, inclusive Rider-Waite-Smith decks, but, you know, I can go with the straightforward ones too. So anyway, that's my first 5 and most recent 5. Thanks, Katie, for starting this tag. It was a lot of fun to think through and to think about my practice and to think about the decks that I liked in the past and really still like. So anyway, as always, peace and love.